Hey there, this is Yarrow Stark. Today we're going to talk all about content marketing. This is something that I'm always thinking about because I'm still the chief marketing officer for my main company, Inbox Done, and content marketing has been my bread and butter since the very beginning for me. Really, even the very first successful business I had, half of our customers came from Google. The other half came from putting up posters on university campuses. So, very real world marketing. And after that, I got into the worlds of blogging and podcasting. Google was still a huge part of it, newsletters, lots of content as a way to attract people, build trust, and get customers. And now, with my current business, our best form of new leads has always been search. It used to be all Google. Now it is a mix of Google and AI based search. I say our best source of leads because it does bring us the people with the highest intent. Now, it's not the most amount of customers. It's always like it's the customer I wish we could have thousands and thousands of, but it is the kind of customer that when they show up from a search, there's a 50% chance they're going to sign up as a customer on that first sales call with us. And that's for a pretty obvious reason. They went searching to solve this problem. So they have a very strong need, as opposed to other content marketing, which I was very much a big proponent of with my content, my education business around my blog, my podcast, and my newsletter. That's where people aren't necessarily looking for what I was providing, but I was able to show them something that was helpful. Even this podcast I'm recording for you right now is an example of this. I am demonstrating my experience and my knowledge. I've generated millions of dollars through content marketing for different types of businesses with different business models, different formulas, both immediately high intent people versus people who are sort of just making decisions over time. And I have all this experience to draw upon. And when I share it with you on a podcast, I'm demonstrating that I know something, I've done something, I could help you do something. I give you some advice, like this podcast, this audio, everything that's going to come from this audio is meant to help you, even if it's like one thing you think about, learn, change with your own business, then that's a huge impact I make on you. And if I do, for example, I'm going to have a coaching offer later this year for people who want to do basically grow their business to their first $1 million year. And by doing these little micro drops of helpful information, I maintain my connection with you. I show that I can help you. So it leads naturally into selling a coaching product or an education product, but it's different. You didn't go looking for this piece of content from me. Maybe you found me through another means many years ago, perhaps a Google search that led to a blog post. Perhaps you just had a friend recommend a podcast episode. Maybe you followed me on social media. Could be anything, but you're getting these constant experiences of what I do. I don't call myself an influencer. Certainly, when I was doing education back then, I would never have called myself an influencer or a creator. But it's basically the modern term for this. We're building trust and creating awareness over time so that when we do sell something, we have an audience who already know, like, and trust us. So that's very different from a person who searches with the intent to solve a problem. Both are important. If you're interested in funnel-based marketing, there's top of funnel, which is people who have that high interest, and you've got different stages in the funnel where they may be looking for a solution but not ready to buy, to maybe being problem aware but not even thinking about a solution yet. And all those types of potential customers matter, but I have to say, when it comes to my current business, I spend an awful lot of time around that search-based person. So the person with the intent. I want to make sure we're getting every possible lead from that high quality, ready to buy type of customer. So let me talk about that. That is meant to be the topic for today's episode. So search has changed a lot, and in many ways it hasn't changed at all since I first started doing it. It was always about providing content to answer questions that people search for, based on keywords, based on whatever problem or information they're looking for. And then making sure you have those keywords, you have the right formatting, the right content in that article, and the hard part, getting some kind of authority built up so that when Google discovers your content, it decides to put that piece of content high up in a search ranking, ideally position 1, 2, or 3, based on the authority of your site. Now, that's hard because you need to build authority, you need to build incoming links, you need to get exposure. However, one of the things I've really come to rely on, and something I certainly advise other people, especially if you're in niches that are quite specific. And anyone who's selling a product or service to a very targeted market, it is quite specific. Like the more specific you get with who you service, the more specific you can be with your content you produce for search. And AI, the new kid on the block when it comes to search, is even better for this because it's so contextual based. Now, I'm not going to pretend to know what's really going with AI-based search because it is a bit of a black box. Even the tools that propose to tell you how many searches for something, I don't really believe that they have super accurate information about this. What we do know is people are using AI to solve problems, to buy products. The downside is they're not going to websites. The plus side is if your product or service is recommended as a solution, 1, 2, or 3 as an option, then you're very likely going to be considered and possibly, get the discovery call booking or even get the purchase. A classic example of this. So last night, I was looking for a new app to run my multiple Gmail accounts with. So I used to use a tool called MailPlane for many, many years, but the creators of that basically stopped supporting it and it slowly died. And basically yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, half the buttons are not working anymore. I have to look for another tool to do this. So I basically want a multiple Gmail account management tool where I can have it sitting in an app and very easily switch between my multiple email accounts, with very clear labeling and things like that. Now, there's options for this, but in the past I would have gone to Google. In this case, I went to Gemini and asked, hey, I gave it my exact situation. I said, I've been using MailPlane. I can't use it anymore, and I'm looking for a solution, something to replace it to manage my multiple Gmail accounts and workspace accounts. And that was interesting because I gave it the context of my situation. It knew I used to use MailPlane and I was looking for something similar to that. Now, if I just went to Google search and looked for a tool to manage multiple Gmail accounts, I probably would have got different tools. But in this case, Gemini gave me the tools it thought were most similar in an experience to what MailPlane would give me. And it gave me like 4 options. And I went, and they were quite different in the sense that one was a lot like MailPlane, one does the same thing as MailPlane, but not in the same experience. And then one was completely more, dynamic, does more than just Gmail. So I went and looked at all 3, and I'm demoing some right now. And one of them, there's a good chance I'm going to purchase. It's a $5 a month kind of app, and it certainly saves me a lot of time. So I would consider using it. So that's a good example where an AI search will very likely, it's leading to a product trial of a SaaS tool right now, and will probably lead to me paying someone for this solution. And I used to pay for MailPlane, so no problem spending $50 a year or something for this. Now, in the past, without AI search, that would have been a Google search. I still would have probably found different tools and tested them, but the contextual matching would not have been as good. Whatever the case, it doesn't really matter because you want to have rankings for both. You want to rank in AI search and you want to rank in Google search and Bing and all the other options out there. I'm not going to do a deep dive into how to do that beyond what I've already said. You need content, you need authority, so you need incoming links. But what's important to think about today too is how those links can be built that are not necessarily as difficult as you think. For example, YouTube and publishing YouTube videos is a form of link building as well as a form of content creation for search. So you have, your blog posts, your articles on your own website, which you're hoping to get ranked for both in search and AI. But by presenting the same content in the format of a YouTube video, you're doubling your search results and potentially just adding a little bit more authority. And authority is interesting because it's not just about pure incoming links from third parties. It's just your presence online. Like, do you have a social media presence? Do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have a podcast? Are you regularly posting to Facebook? Are you obviously updating your blog on a regular basis? So simply having a presence across multiple platforms shows the search engines that you at least have your basics done. You exist, you're up to date, you're present. Now, you do need to get those third-party links to ultimately get the best rankings. But, and this is the important part, today with AI-based search, since it's more contextual, the authority part is not as critical. Like, you're not trying to rank always in the top 3 results of just these very few keyword searches. Instead, you've got this whole range of potential contextual situations that people type into a chat conversation, just like I gave that example with MailPlane. So that gives the AI search more information to surface matching whatever it is, solutions, products, services, websites, articles, etc. And then it will give you very likely a comparison. So it gives people three, four, five, six options. And then people refine that. They chat back and forth and say, I don't want this, I want something more like that. So by having a presence and having multiple formats of content, there's a better chance of you being sourced in an AI chat. So with AI based search, everything is about being in the sources. So being somewhere in the references. That could be in a Reddit post, that could be in a post on X, Twitter. It can be just showing up in a Google search. It can be a YouTube video. The more places you're appearing, the better chances in these contextual conversations you're going to appear. So what I'm working on with my company and my team right now, my little marketing team, is making sure we have a YouTube version of every piece of our core written content, which we don't have right now. And also a raw video to share on social. Like we share the written versions of our content. We don't share a video version of everything. So it's kind of like a process of ticking all the boxes for just the core foundations. We're also building links. Don't get me wrong. We're out there on podcasts trying to generate new incoming links. We try and get some press coverage. We're going to have a book published probably some point this year with my co-founder. So all these things help for those big incoming links for the really big boosts in authority. But there's a lot of kind of day-to-day work you can work on just to build that core foundation of content you need on all these different platforms today. So that's actually something I would certainly advise you do if you haven't done it. I would definitely recommend getting a team and using some sort of AI tools. We're using AI tools for some of this too. Because it's a lot of work and you do have to kind of just work your way through it, especially if you're brand new and you haven't done this. But it is a basic need. The reason, even with my education business, I wasn't as calculated as I'm being right now with my current agency about going after this search traffic, but I did kind of do the same thing. I was a regular writer, so I started to hit all these different keywords. I was publishing a newsletter. I was sharing this content onto my social feeds. I was doing a podcast, so I had this audio content appearing as well, which also has written content. Back then it was just transcripts. But all of these places I was showing up in different content formats, and then eventually some YouTube content. I didn't really go deep in there, and I would, if I started again, that's certainly where I'd spend more time. But that organically got me these search rankings. So it's the same thing now. We're being a bit more structured, being a bit more tactical, going after this great result. All right, I'm going to stop there. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you soon.